I will be discussing about the cognitive social learning theory of Rutter and Mischel. First, let us get to know Julian Rutter. He was the author of locus of control, or the psychological concept that refers to the degree of which an individual feels a sense of agency in his or her own life, which means that it is an individual's feeling, or like the sense of feeling he or she can control or like takes charge of his or her own life. But let us talk more about Julian Rutter's journey. So, he was born in Brooklyn on October 22, 1916, and he was the third and the oldest son of two Jewish immigrant parents. And then, na-recall ni Rutter nga, like, na-fit sa iya ang description ni Adler nga, highly competitive, fighting youngest child. So, atong elementary and high school years niya, he was an avid reader. So, sa ilahang local library, kay almost fiction book kay nabasa na niya, in which one time, kay kanan abot siya sa section sa psychology. And then nakita niya ang book ni Adler, which is The Understanding of Human Nature, and then Freud's Psychopathology of Everyday Life, Carl Menninger's The Human Mind. So, he was particularly impressed kay Adler o kay Freud. And soon, kay kanang like, sa pagkabasa niya sa kanang mga books, balik na yun siya. And then, college niya, kay, of course, na-interested na siya sa psychology, pero namili siya between chemistry and psychology. And iyang gipili is chemistry, since in demand ang chemistry at nga time. So, after he graduated in Brooklyn College in 1937, kay nakita niya nga mas daghan og credits ang psychology kaysa sa chemistry. So, nag-enroll siya sa graduate school in psychology. So, naka-receive siya sa iyang master's degree in 1938. And then, nag-proceed siya and na-complete niya ang internship niya in clinical psychology sa Worcester State Hospital in Massachusetts. Kungahan niya namit ang iyang wife, which is si Clara Barnes. So, in 1941, na-receive na ni Rutter ang iyang PhD sa clinical psychology. And then later that same year, kinaccept siya sa iyang position as clinical psychologist. So, atong World War II sad, kay nag-serve siya as an army psychologist. And then after war, balik na din siya sa Norwich, pero nakatanggap siya og opportunity nga mag-work sa Ohio State University, where naka-attract siya og mga graduating students bitaw, including Walter Mischel. So, Rutter's most important publications are Social Learning and Clinical Psychology, Applications of Social Learning Theory of Personality, The Development and Application of Social Learning Theory, Selected Papers, The Rutter Incomplete Sentences Blank, and The Interpersonal Trust Scale. So, Rutter also served as the president of the Eastern Psychological Association, as well as sa American Psychological Association, or katong APA. And then he earned the Distinguished Contribution to Clinical Training Award from the Council of University Directors of Clinical Psychology. Introduction to Rutter's Social Learning Theory. So, naay 5 basic hypotheses si Rutter sa social learning theory, which are, first, humans interact with their meaningful environments. So, ang reaction sa mga tao sa environmental stimuli kay magdepende sa kung unsa sila ka-attach or sa kung unsa ka-significant ni nga kanang environment sa ilaha. And kanang ang reinforcement kay magdepende pod siya sa kanang imuhang cognitive capacity bitaw. So, second assumption of Rutter's theory is human personality is learned. So, pag anak na to, kay wala nakaset dayon kung sa atong personality. Ang atong personality daw, kay based siya sa atong experiences, and we are always responsive to change through new experiences. So, our personality can be changed or modified as long as people are capable of learning. So, the third assumption kay personality has a basic unity, which means nga personalities possesses relative stability. And like human behavior lies in people's expectation to their behaviors. And then the fourth basic hypothesis is motivation is goal-directed, which means that human behavior kay kanang base siya sa imong goals. Rutter's fourth basic hypothesis is motivation is goal-directed. So, gina-insist ni Rutter na ang human behavior is based on your goals. Or example, imong goal is to finish college. And then, your behavior is kanang attentive ka sa classes, nag-participate ka, gahimo ka activities and etc. So, your behavior is based on your goal. So, gaka-motivate ka sa imong goal. And then, gina-reject bod ni Rutter ang idea nga kanang ang motivation daw, or like our primary motivation kay kanang para to reduce stress and like to seek pleasure. And Rutter has an empirical law of effect which defines reinforcement as any action, condition, or event which affects the individual's movement toward a goal. So the fifth assumption is that people are capable of anticipating events. So, they use perceived movement in the direction of the anticipated event. So, of course, example, naglingkod ko right now, and nitindog ko kay possible nga nakikwaon or nakilakon, wala ko nitindog because mulingkod ra ko balik. These 5 general assumptions of Rutter leads him to build a personality theory that attempts to predict human behavior. So, predicting specific behaviors. So, Rutter's primary concern is the prediction of human behavior. So, he suggested 4 variables that must be analyzed in order to make an accurate predictions in any specific situations. So, these variables are behavior potential, expectancy, reinforcement value, and psychological situation. The behavior potential is a possibility that a particular response will occur at a given time and space. So, behavior potential in any situation is a function of both expectancy and reinforcement value. Next is expectancy, kay a person's expectation of specific reinforcement kay mahitabo siya at any given time. And kaning expectancy kay pwede siya general or specific. General or generalized expectancies, it is learned through past experiences or previous experiences with a particular or similar response nga ga-base siya sa belief nimo nga kani nga certain behavior kay mag-cause siya of positive reinforcement. Example kay kanang kita na work hard ta sa ato ang concept map, like nag-sacrifice ng pulog, gaon, or ano sa pana, and kanang nag-exert tag effort para mahuman na to ang ato ang concept map, and then that resulted to high grades. So magka-generalized expectancy dayon ta nga in the future exert tag same effort, same amount of effort, time, and energy kay maka-result sa na siya og good grades. Whereas kaning specific expectancies kay both specific expectancies and generalized expectancies. For example, gihatagan kag another na requirement, and kanang of course tungod atong generalized expectancy nimo nga if mag-exert kag same amount of effort, time, and energy pareha sa atong concept map kay kanang maka-result na siya og reinforcement, positive reinforcement nga good grade. Pero if ibutang ka sa kanang, for example, French class, if ibutang ka diha and kanang mag-exert gihapon ka og same amount of effort, time, and energy, dili same ang result since doing the project or requirement is different from learning a new language. So, total expectancy is the success of function of both generalized expectancy and specific expectancy. So reinforcement value, it revolves around your own preference. Preference of a person attaches to any reinforcement. So, behavior is shaped by one's preference for the possible reinforcements. What determines the reinforcement values of conditions, events, and action? First, kay individual's perception. So, of course, individual's perception kina negative or positive. And kani nga perception kay ginatawag ni Rutter nga perception internal reinforcement, which is an external reinforcement nga kaning events, conditions, actions. Muna siya ang external reinforcement. And then another contributor pod sa reinforcement value kay kaning one's needs. Ani kay pag ma-satisfy ni mo imong need, mas magimo kang stronger, and then as you go stronger, kay gaka-increase pod ang imong value. Last is expected consequences for future reinforcement. It means that people are capable of using cognition to anticipate a sequence of events leading to some future goal, and the ultimate goal contributes to the reinforcement value of each event in the sequence. And then another is psychological situation. So, fourth variable in the prediction formula is the psychological situation. So, part of the external and internal world to which a person is responding, it is not synonymous with the external stimuli, although physical events are usually important to the psychological situation. So, behavior is the result of neither environmental events nor personal traits. Rather, it stems from interaction of a person with his or her meaningful environment. So, ang behavior daw kay mag-result neither environmental events or personal traits, but rather the interaction of a person sa iyang meaningful event. So, the psychological situation is a complex set of interacting cues acting upon an individual for any specific time period. And then, basic prediction formula. So, basic prediction formula. So, this is how we read this. Potential for behavior X to occur in situation 1 in relation to reinforcement A is a function of expectancy that behavior X will be followed by reinforcement A in the situation 1 and the value of reinforcement A in the situation 1. So, apply na to siya sa itong example. So, the formula suggests that the likelihood, siya ang behavior potential. And then, that Lahu 1 will rest her head on her desk is kaning behavior X. and dull and boring class with other students slumbering, muna yung psychological situation, or S1. And then the goal of sleep kay muna yung reinforcement or DRA, and then function of her expectation that such behavior kay muna yung AX or X. And then will be followed by sleep, which is RA, in this particular classroom, S1, plus a measure of how highly she desires to sleep, muna yung RVA or reinforcement value. So moving on, predicting general behaviors. Ruther defined needs as any behavior or set of behaviors that people see as moving them in direction of goal. Needs are not states of deprivation or arousal, but indicators of the direction of behavior. So categories of needs. First is recognition of status. So it is the need to be recognized by others, and it is a powerful need for most people. And then next is dominance, which is the need to control the behavior of others. And then independence, which is the need to be free of the domination of others. And the next is protection dependency, which is a set of needs nearly opposite to independence. So this category includes to be cared for by others, to be protected from frustration and harm, and to satisfy the other need categories. Next is love and affection. So the needs for acceptance by others that go beyond recognition and status, to include some indications that other people have warm, positive feelings for them. So, and next is physical comfort. This is the most basic need because other needs are learned in relation to it. So need components, need potential or NP refers to possible occurrences of set of functionally related behaviors directed to satisfying the same or similar goal. Then, need potential or NP. It is the possible occurrences of set of functionally related behaviors. The difference of need potential and behavior potential is that need potential refers to a group of functionally related behaviors. And then behavior potential is the likelihood that a particular behavior will occur in a given situation in a relation to a specific reinforcement. And this need potential cannot be measured solely through observation of behavior. Next is freedom of movement. It is partly determined by our expectancies. So next is the need value, or the NV. So this is the degree of which she or he prefers one set of reinforcements to another. Then general prediction formula, which reads need potential or NP is a function of a freedom of movement and need value or NV. Here is the general prediction formula with a deduced example. And then Ruther's general prediction formula allows for people's history of using similar experiences to anticipate present reinforcement. That is, they have generalized expectancy to success. So Ruther's two most popular scales for measuring generalized expectancies are internal-external control scale and the interpersonal trust scale. So to differentiate internal versus external locus of control, internal believes that they are in control and take responsibility for their own actions, whereas the external blame external forces for their own circumstances. So some people tended to explain successful outcomes as luck or chance, whereas others retained a high sense of personal control even after several non-reinforced behaviors. So to assess the internal and external control of reinforcement, or the locus of control, Ruther developed the internal and external control scale. Internal-external control scale attempts to measure the degree which people perceive a causal relationship between their own efforts and environmental consequences. So people who score high on internal control generally believe that the source of control resides within themselves and that they exercise a high level of personal control in most situations. So, however, Ruther pointed out too much internal control is not always socially desirable. So too much of everything is not good. Although Ruther pointed out several common misconceptions concerning internal and external control of reinforcement, people continue to misuse and misinterpret the instrument. So one misconception is that scores on the scale are determinants of behavior. They should not be seen as causes of behavior, but as indicators of generalized expectancies. And the second misconception is that the locus of control is specific and can predict achievement in a specific situation. So again, the concept refers to the generalized expectancies of reinforcement, and that it indicates the degree of which people generally believe that they are in control of themselves or themselves. And then the third common misconception is that the scale divides people into two distinct types, the internal and the external. And then the fourth misconception is that many people seem to believe that high internal scores signify socially desirable traits and that the high external scores indicates socially undesirable characteristics. So actually, the extreme scores in each direction would be undesirable. The extreme scores of both are undesirable. So dili lang ang external or dili lang ang internal kundi so tanan nga sobra kay dili siya desirable. So very high external external scores is related to apathy and despair, believing that they have no control over the environment. And then the very high or the extremely high internal scores, kay kanang gina-blame nila ang like they take responsibility for it. So some scores in between are probably the most healthy and desirable. And then the
Okay, so next we'll tackle about Walter Mischel. So Walter Mischel was born on February 22, 1930 in Vienna. He grew up in a pleasant environment, only a short distance from Freud's home. They fled Austria due to the attack of Nazis, and they moved to United States and settled in Brooklyn. So he attended New York University, where he became passionately interested at painting and sculpture, and divided his time among all arts, including psychology and the life in Greenwich Village. So he entered the MA program in clinical psychology at College of New York, and Mischel admired both Ruther and Kelly, and he learned from each of them. So he became determined to learn more about why people prefer future variable rewards over immediate less valuable rewards. Mischel taught for 2 years at the University of Colorado, and Mischel's most important early work was Personality and Assessment in 1968. So, personality and assessment, Mischel argued that traits are weak predictors of performance in a variety of situations, and that the situation is more important than traits in influencing the behavior. So Mischel has won several awards, including the Distinguished Scientist Award from the Clinical Division of the American Psychological Association in 1978 and the APA's Award for Distinguished Scientific Contribution in 1982. Background of the cognitive affective personality system. So first we have the consistency paradox. So Mischel saw that both layperson and professional psychologists seem to intuitively believe that people's behavior is relatively consistent, yet empirical evidence suggests much variability in behavior. So kaning consistency paradox is more siya state na ato ang personality can tend to remain the same over time, but ato ang behavior is ga-change siya depende sa situation. So he also contended that some basic traits do persist over time, but little evidence exists that they generalize from one situation to another. So for example, ani is kanang school children who were honest in one situation were deceitful in other. So for example, some children would cheat on a test but not steal party favors. Others would break rules in an athletic contest but not cheated on a test. So diba murag ano siya, depending on the situation. Like, if ako sa dinhi nga situation, kanang ing-ani ko, pero sa other, kay, murag, palitan din nga situation, introverted ko. Pero, if at the other situation, with my friends, extroverted ko. So, I don't, depending din siya sa situation, kaning consistency paradox, kana, ang situation is ga-affect siya sa tuang behavior. Okay, next we have the person-situation interaction. So personal dispositions influences behavior only under certain conditions and in certain situation. So this view suggests that behavior is not caused by global person traits, but by people's perceptions of themselves in a particular situation. So kani siya person-situation interaction is mura ni siya basically saying that at ang situation is affects atong behavior, and pati na sad ang kanang people who we are with. So for example, kaniyo. For example, a young man who typically is very shy around young women may behave in an outgoing, extroverted manner when he is with men or with older women. So why man that? Maybe depende of how they perceive themselves. Maybe he is very shy among young women with his age. Di ka siya confidence sa iyahang, di ka siya confidence in himself around young women. But with men, he feel very confident. So yeah, depending siya on how you perceive yourself, the situation, and the people. Person, situation, interaction. Cognitive affective personality system. So Walter Mischel proposed a cognitive affective personality system, or the CAPS, that accounts for variability across situation as well as stability of behavior within a person. So this cognitive affective personality system predicts that a person's behavior will change from situation to situation, but in a meaningful manner. So behavior predictions. His basic theoretical position for predicting and explaining is stated as follows. So if personality is a stable system that processes the information about the situations, external, internal, then it follows that as individuals encounter different situations, their behavior should vary across situations. So for Walter, iha daw kuno ang behavior daw kuno is that ano daw siya, depende na daw lagi siya sa situation variables. So behavior is depending on the situation that a person encounters. So it assumes that personality may have temporal stability and that behavior may vary from situation to situation. It also assumes that prediction of behavior rests on a knowledge of how and when various cognitive affective units are activated. So, personality may be stable, but our behavior can change depending on the situation that we are in. So, the situation variable. So, Mischel believed that relative influences of situation variable and personal qualities can be determined by observing the uniformly of diversity of people's responses in a given situation. So, for example, is while watching an emotional scene in an engrossing movie, situation variables are more powerful than personal characteristics. So, on the other hand, events that appear the same may produce wildly different reactions because personal qualities override situational ones. So, then he states that our personal qualities daw kuno may mas mulabaw pa daw siya kaysa sa situation that we are in. Like for example, when someone watches a horror movie, so other person may feel scary, but the other person is wala na siya ha. Is because other is scared siya tungkol sa situation that he or she is in, but the other feels neutral because for him it may be scary, but for him is like wala na siya. So personal qualities override situational ones. Cognitive affective units. So cognitive affective units include all those physiological, social, and psychological aspects of people that cause them to interact with their environment with a relatively stable pattern of variation. So these units include people's encoding strategies, competencies and self-regulatory strategies. 3 is expectancies and beliefs. 4 is goals and values, and 5 affective responses. First, we have the encoding strategies. So people's ways of categorizing information received from external stimuli. So people use cognitive processes to transform these stimuli into personal constructs, including their self-concept, their view of other people, and their way of looking at the world. So different people encode the same events in different ways, which accounts for individual differences in personal construct. So for example, here is a person may react angrily when insulted, whereas another may choose to ignore the same insult. So for example, ani, nakita ko dito sa real life, is kanang magdula og, familiar with sa Mobile Legends, no? It is a famous MOBA game nowadays. So, I saw my brother and cousin playing at a game, and then situation here is that someone trash talk them, like trash talk is common in that game kasi, and someone trash talk both of them, their team trash talk their team, and my cousin react angrily, like he responds aggressively, and he responded in a very offensive way, while my brother, he just laughed because he thinks that people like that are just, very silly. They're just like, maybe they're joking around lang. And yeah, that's what I observe, and that's what encoding strategies example is. So they have different ways they encode the same event. So lahi sila pagsabot ana nga situation. So depending on how you react or how you handle that kind of situation, how you encode them. Next, we have the competencies and self-regulatory strategies. So our beliefs in what we can do relate to our competencies. So competencies to refer to the vast array of information we acquire about the world and our relationship to it. Thus, we acquire a set of beliefs about our performance, capabilities, often in the same absences of actual performance. So Mischel believes that people use self-regulatory strategies to control their own behavior through self-imposed goals and self-produced consequences. So for example, here is kanang an outstanding student may believe that she has the competencies to do well on the graduate record exam even though she has never taken that test. So mao man gid nang maka kana bitang for example magkatong nag-take ta og entrance exam sa CMU. Makaingon ta nga hindi man ako, pero ako naka-observe lang is, kanang maingon silang nga, hala, ano ba ito kapasar si Kuan, biskan bright kay ito. Makaingon po ta nga, wala, unsa na lang ka ako nga, dili mo kapalit sa bright sa iya, makapasar ka ako or dili. Naay uban mo hinder to sa ilahang nga, kato nga belief is mo hinder to, while ang uban is kana mo, ano gid sila, mo push gid sila into taking that test. Kaya lagi, they, what the like unsa ang ginabilif sa uban murag like mao pud ilang apply sa ilang self, like for example bright ka nakapasa sa tong bright nimo kakaila ato nga exam, so mo push it kag take sa ang ana nga exam. Next we have the expectancies and beliefs. So knowledge of people's hypotheses or beliefs concerning the outcome of any situation is a better predictor of behavior than is knowledge of their ability to perform. So when people have no information about what they can expect from a behavior, they will enact those behaviors that receive the greatest reinforcement in past similar situations. Like for example, katong yapong college student who has never taken the GRE, nevertheless has had experience preparing for other tests. So what that student does in getting ready for the GRE is partially influenced by what previous test preparation behaviors resulted in that most valuable outcome. So since wala pa man siya ka-take anang GRE, naka-take na siya ang other test before that. So iyang himuon is kung unsa to iyang gina-prepare before kung unsa to iyang gina-prepare sa test sa una nga, which is na-succeed siya, nakapasar siya, mao gyapon iyang i-prepare for this upcoming test. Like for example, nag-review siya, na-succeed siya, nakapasar siya sa previous niya exam. So most na iyang himuon sa GRE. And kabantay sad ko kana sad katong nag-take ko og kanang entrance exam gyapon dira sa CMU is mag-review gid ta, even though mayon sila nga way mo gawas, mag-review gid gyapon ta, because that is because naanad na ta nga if mag-take tag test kailangan na agid tay i-review. So expectancies and beliefs, ingani itong gina-expect, ingani sa atong ginatuohan. Next is we have the goals and values. So people do not react passively to situations but are active and goal directed. So they formulate goals, devise plans for attaining their goals, and in part create their own situations. For example, two college students may have equal academic ability and also equal expectancy for success in graduate school. So the first, however, places more values on entering the job market than on going to graduate school, while the second chooses to go to graduate school rather than pursue an immediate career. So if mag-graduate man gid like na man gid tay decision na gid tay goals. So we have different goals. Di kita makaingon nga hala wa na siya ni iswila, sukuan man ni siya inga. No, naa gid siya lahi iya nga goals. So kaingon ta hala nagminyo na lagi na siya. Lahi iyang goals. So for example is naa gid ko ang classmate classmate pag wala siya na pursue og college, more on nag-family na siya, so we can say na murag wala siya goals and wala siya values, but we can say here sa goals and values is that lahi iyahang goals, lahi iyang values. Pero so makaingon ta since lahi atong goals and values ilaha, makaingon ta nga no dili lahi di na siya, that's not right. Pero sa ilaha that's right kay mao na ilang goals and values. Okay, so lastly we have the affective responses. So affective responses includes emotions, feelings, and physiological reactions. So affective responses then do not exist in isolation. Not only are they inseparable from cognitive processes, but they also influence each of the other cognitive affective units. So for example, the encoding of a person's view of the self includes certain positive and negative feelings. Yeah, like for example, katong example nako ganiha nga katong sa encoding how they perceive katong nga murag comment sa ilahang kalaban, di ba? Ang other ko ang cousin is nasuko siya, kung manghot is murag katawa la siya kay lagi murag hilarious. Nasuko ako ang cousin, that includes negative feelings, di ba? And nagkatawa ako that includes positive feelings. So, it includes feelings and physiological reactions. Reactions nila. So, mo to reactions niya is, ya cellphone niya, kailangan sa po siya. And, katawa rin isa. So, yeah, affective responses include sa tanan nga kuan. Not only that, include siya sa encoding, but also sa tanan nga mga cognitive affective units. It includes emotions, feelings, and physiological reactions. Related researches. So first, we have the locus of control and Holocaust heroes. So, mo ni siya a research about sa katubitang mga during the Nazis, mga Holocaust heroes is mo na sila kato mga tao nga even though they're victims sila sa Nazi, they gihapon they save other people gihapon despite murag ilahang self is in danger na sila. They also save other people gihapon from danger. Excuse me. So the researchers found that possessing an internal sense of control was positively related to all the personality variables measured. So which means that those who had high sense of internal control also were more autonomous, took more risks, had a stronger sense of social responsibility, were more tolerant or less authoritarian, were more empathetic, and exhibited higher levels of altruistic and moral reasoning. Further analysis revealed that those who put their own life on the line, assessed their persecuted neighbors, had a higher sense of internal control than those who did not offer assistance. Next, we have the person-situation interaction. So the goal of this study was to show that people understand the if and then framework and use it when making judgments about others. So participants in this study were given just one trait of fictional female student and then asked to predict how warmly the students would behave in several different situations. So Mischel and colleagues concluded that the social cognitive interactionist conceptualization of the person-situation environment is a more appropriate way of understanding human behavior than the traditional decontextualized view of personality in which people behave in a given way regardless of the context. Self-regulation across the lifespan. So Mischel and colleagues have published extensively on these questions and have concluded that those who can resist temptation in favor of long-term goals to do so with the use of two broad strategies, redirection of attention or cognitive reframing. So Walter Mischel seemingly simple demonstrations of early life regulatory competencies have proven to be powerful predictors of healthy and flexible personality and well into midlife. Okay, so last we have here the critics of cognitive psychology. So first, how the theories of Rother and Mischel spark a significant body of research. So is it able to generate research? So on this citation, cognitive social learning theories have generated both quantity and quality research. So second, we have falsifiable. So the second are cognitive social learning theories falsifiable. So the empirical nature of both Rother and Mischel's work exposes these theories to possible falsification and verification. So third is on this citation, the organizing knowledge. So cognitive social theory rates a little above average. Okay, next we have thus cognitive social learning theory serve as a useful guide to action. So on this citation, we rate the theory only moderately high. So next we have, are the theories of Rother and Mischel internally consistent? So Rother is careful to defining terms so that the same term does not have two or more meanings. So kay Mischel said, like Bandura, has evolved a theory from solid empirical work research procedure that greatly facilitate consistency. So yes, both of their theories are internally consistent. And lastly, sixth is cognitive social learning theory parsimonious. So in general, it is relatively simple and does not purport to offer explanation for all human personality. And again, the emphasis on research rather than the philosophical speculations has contributed to the parsimony of the cognitive social learning theories of both Rother and Mischel.